Big doors swing on small hinges, tentatively rambling about incremental progress. Anybody who knows me knows that I love old church buildings. One of my favourite things to do on holiday is to find an old church and try the door. I love exploring these old buildings. I love the history and I love the stories they tell. The biggest difference between old churches and modern ones is that you can read the story of an old church simply by looking at the artwork on the walls, the carvings, the stained glass and the commemorative plaques. Modern churches may be clean and tidy and without leaky roofs, but they're often devoid of a story. It's a joy to wander into an old church and get that sense of connection to fellow Christians who lived hundreds of years before me. Whenever I see a pair of old church doors, I am always reminded of the words of the old expression, "Big doors swing on small hinges." I'm not sure who said it first, and I'm not going to rob you of the opportunity of Googling it, but I am sure it was probably someone clever. The hinge is a relatively modest part of the door, yet it plays a huge role in the workings of the door. Some hinges are more elaborate than others, but the basic idea is the same. This idea of big doors swinging on small hinges is a good reminder that little actions can make a big difference. In the last 4 years, we've undergone quite a change in the youth and children's work at our church. It's a change for the better, and hopefully it's put us on much better footing for the future. A negative result of the lockdowns was that we had separated the youth work and the children's work so we could just keep the show on the road, virtually speaking, with lots of video content, etc. But it was such a big job and the restrictions were so annoying to work around, we ended up running our children's work and our youth work as two completely separate concerns. Now being safely on the other side of all that, we've thrown the teams back together again and have seen the benefits ever since. We've gone from having just 5 teams to having 15 volunteers serve our under-16s every Sunday morning. If you're not familiar with organising volunteers, that's a lot of volunteer roles to consistently fill every week. We still want to grow this team, but we're enormously thankful for everyone who already gives us their time. We've gone from having no presence in any of our local schools to being in school multiple times a week. This is a brilliant opportunity which was completely closed to us before. We visit local schools to help with RE lessons, especially at Easter and Christmas. We've written special lessons in partnership with local schools to help children engage with these topics in a fun and interactive way which dovetails with their school curriculum. This is taking a careful, gradual approach. We've tended to add only 1 or 2 lessons a year, then take time to review them. 4 years later, we're doing 6 regular lessons a year in the school, and we also host a school trip where they come to visit our church building. We also run a games club in a local secondary school, which helps students make friends and find people to hang out with at lunchtimes. Within the first year, this grew to be the most popular club in the school and is now something that the staff have used as a model to run other clubs off within the school. We've also been very blessed by having students in our youth group who routinely invite their friends along. We run a drop-in club on a Friday night, which has doubled in the last 2 years. This is great news, and we're so thankful to God for trusting us with the responsibility of sharing hope with these young people. We don't take any of it for granted, and we're truly thankful. Although this sounds like big growth, in reality, you don't have 20 kids one week and the next week have 40. In reality, the weekly register looks something like this: 20, 21, 18, 20, 19, 23, 22, 24, 19, 22, etc. The growth itself is incremental, it's gradual, it's often imperceptible until you stop and think about it, which itself underlines the need for reviewing what you do. What is worth noting is, while we have seen some very large changes in the attendances of our children's and youth work, other than uniting the 2 teams, I couldn't point to a single big change we've made as a team. We're constantly making small changes, but there's no single thing we're doing which we could point to in order to explain what has gone on, other than God is smiling on what we're doing. For a long time, my personal conviction has been to make 52 small changes rather than one big one. I think changing things little and often is good for you. It lowers your resistance to change, which for someone like me is good. It opens you up to new possibilities. For instance, I'm not a big fan of playing card games in a youth club setting. I much prefer big table games like pool, table tennis and table football. But that is totally my own personal preference and nothing to do with what is best for my youth group. A couple of years ago, we started using card games like Uno and Dobble regularly, and they've been a huge hit with a certain demographic. Brilliant! I need to be open to trying things because we're all different, and that's part of the fun. I think being open to making small changes is like the small hinge the big door swings on. A small change like having Uno cards available is such a small thing, but it's got massive potential. I think deliberately putting yourself in the mindset that making changes is normal, it helps you to be flexible, and it also helps you to get better at identify what is working or helping and what isn't. Don't get me wrong, we try things that don't work, but we learn from them and we don't do those things again. We're always learning and always improving. So why am I rambling about incremental changes today? Very simply, it's been on my mind this week. We're heading towards the end of the school year. My eldest son takes his final GCSE exam today, and then we'll have his leavers assembly this afternoon. That's it. Secondary school is just a memory for him now. That sort of thing puts you in a reflective mood. I like to review things. I like to reflect, but you have to be careful. Don't review things week to week. That's far too close for you to see the change. If, like me, you work with people, let it breathe. You'll drive yourself mad if you review what you're doing every week. Remember the example numbers I shared earlier about our youth club attendance? If I interrogated those numbers every week, I'd be a nervous wreck. We normally check them every 8 to 10 weeks. We need distance from the numbers to spot trends. There are 101 factors as to why your attendance might go up one week and down another. You can't trust the week-to-week data. The blip, up or down, could be caused by a birthday party. Maybe they invited all their friends. Or perhaps they all went out to dinner and took their friends with them away from your youth club. The only thing worth tracking is the trend. Is the trend going up or down, broadly speaking? 3 quick thoughts before I wrap this up. Attendance is only one of the things worth tracking. I rambled about this back in November. What else can you use as a measure of success? Faithful presence is massively underrated in my view, something I rambled about back in July last year. And lastly, you don't have to try and do all the things. Embrace your limitation. This is a topic I rambled about in February of this year. Back to the hinge analogy. Small things make a big difference. Sometimes, in this great big world with all the myriad things going on, it's tempting to think that you don't make a difference. That is rubbish. You can make a huge difference despite only being small, despite only having the skills you have, despite only having the limited free time available. Despite all those things, you can make a big difference. As a Christian, I think one of the best examples of this is that time when thousands of people had come to listen to hear Jesus speaking. They were in a remote spot, and most of them hadn't made any plans to stay and listen for so long, so they hadn't got any food with them. You know the story. When the boy gave the small amount of food he had into the hands of Jesus, the small became very big indeed. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Matthew 14, verses 20 to 21. Nobody is asking you to do this all on your own. The Holy Spirit is the helper who lives in us and works through us. You may be small, but God can shine through you to the world around you. So let your light shine. Don't hide it. Allow yourself to be the small hinge on which the big door can swing. A small action can precipitate a big change. Just ask the boy who gave his packed lunch to Jesus. Thanks for joining me today on my ramble. I hope it's been encouraging to you. If you have a friend who you think would appreciate it, why not send them a link? I hope you can join me again next week for another journey with my thoughts. Grace and peace.